The Constitutional Court has spared no one when handing down the NPA judgment. Judge Mxolisi Nxasana ruled that both Mxolisi Nxasana's removal as NPA head and Shaun Abrahams' subsequent appointment were unconstitutional. But he also found that former President Jacob Zuma abused his power. Here's why.
Former President Zuma appointed Advocate Abrahams following his unlawful removal of Mr. Nxasana. That removal was an abuse of power. Advocate Abrahams is a beneficiary of that abuse of power. It matters not that he may have been unaware of the abuse of power. The rule of law dictates that the office of NDPP be cleansed of all the ills that have plagued it for the past few years. It would therefore not be just and equitable to retain Advocate Abrahams, as this would not vindicate the rule of law.
All right, let's continue with reactions now. We're joined by our reporter, Erin Batesis. Erin, you were in court today, and there's been wide-ranging reactions to this landmark judgment by the Constitutional Court. Let's perhaps just look at the political parties' reactions, starting with the ANC. What's it said about President Cyril Ramaphosa?
Yes, well, interestingly, we have both the governing party and the official opposition, the DA, in agreement in welcoming this judgment from the Constitutional Court. News just in from the ANC with their statement being released on behalf of Pule Mabe, and I think this is an important paragraph in their statement. Begins with just saying they welcome it, they're pleased and so forth, but then says the ANC believes that today's judgment provides President Cyril Ramaphosa with the necessary space to move with speed and urgency to resolve the leadership question at the NPA. And that's something Ramaphosa brought up not only in his State of the Nation address, but also during a Q&A in the middle of this year, saying that he was aware of the need to address and stabilize the leadership in the NPA, and his own party now reiterating that with their latest statement.
Well, absolutely. What an important organization that we need to be stable. I want to just talk about Mxolisi Nxasana. At least on social media, there is some discussion, some disagreement around the fact that as a country, we do owe him a debt of gratitude. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have known all of the background goings on.
And interesting there that some people were saying when news of this golden handshake came up that he was a beneficiary of the gravy train. But other people, including some of the NGOs that were involved in this case, really clarifying and characterizing him as a hero, as someone who fell on the sword of this golden handshake in order to then reveal some of the leadership problems and the highly politicized climate at the NPA at the time he was pushed out. And that's something he actually brought up when I spoke to him after court today. He said, you must remember the kind of environment I was in at the time at the NPA, and saying some of the people who were very closely tied to political leadership at the presidency at the time remain at the NPA now. And so that there's been a very contested, politicized atmosphere around the NPA, and he was certainly victim to that. You know, he and his family, all subject to high scrutiny around the time that he was offered this golden handshake, as it were.
So, Luvuyo Mfako, the NPA spokesperson, speaking to our colleague Annika Larson a short while ago, he seemed to be very emotional. He seemed to be holding back quite a bit of emotion, saying that Shaun Abrahams has also taken it on the chin, but he's taking it really hard, this decision by the Constitutional Court. Also going as far as to say, now that the president is sitting with this decision to make, to appoint a new NDPP in 90 days, Shaun Abrahams has not been found unfit to hold office, and he doesn't see any reason why his name should not also be in the hat.
Certainly, and that was the argument he put before the Constitutional Court. And I think it is worth underlining something that came up during judgment, or during arguments before judgment in this, which is that the Constitutional Court hasn't ruled on Abrahams' fitness to hold office. It's a question of law. They're saying, as a consequence of the fact that Nxasana exited unlawfully and unconstitutionally, Abrahams' arrival is therefore by association, by default, unconstitutional. But they haven't made any judgment, any ruling on his character, on his capacity in that position, and so forth. Something that had come up in the High Court case, and the High Court actually going quite far in their assessment of Abrahams when they handed out judgment in late 2017. So now Ramaphosa sits with this question: who does he appoint to the NPA, the most important authority when it comes to law and order in South Africa? And who will he choose? Will he look to Abrahams? It's probably unlikely that it's going to go that way.
Now that you're sort of looking into who might be on the president's minds and on his advisors' minds in making this incredibly important decision. Has the name Vusi Pikoli come up?
There are rumors. Some newspapers and financial publications have disclosed that sources are suggesting Vusi Pikoli has been approached. By whom hasn't been disclosed at this point. There have also been murmurs about Glynis Bredenbach, also Willie Hofmeyr maybe in an acting capacity while we wait for the Ramaphosa decision. But I think what's important to note is that in February, soon after taking office, Ramaphosa announced that he was withdrawing the presidency's opposition to the High Court judgment. And that swift announcement soon after coming into office suggested he was eager to deal with the issue of leadership at the NPA. So while the Constitutional Court has given him a full 90 days, he may well take a cue from the ANC statement, which says see to it urgently, and may act sooner rather than later.
All right, well, thanks as always, Erin, for coming in and clarifying some of those issues for us, our reporter Erin Bates.